My last take, I obviously have a T1 stored. Which is, even though, look, I will totally acknowledge, obviously I was wrong the last 2 years. I've had takes where I didn't even have them get into the playoffs. I obviously I had no imagination they were going to beat Gen G and beat BLG. I'll own it when I'm wrong. When people don't understand this, I'm fine with that. But here's the thing. I actually think the angle... here's the thing. I actually think people in esports don't admit it, but they are superstitious. I actually believe now that even, put it this way, I bet even Dom is semi-broken. In fact, you know what? I know he is. I heard how he talked on all the Power Spike, on all that fucking League Awards. He fucking walked it so far back on T1, it was crazy. Like, by the end, look, he's not an idiot. He didn't agree with Stans. But by the end, he was himself saying stuff like, well, they do win when it matters. They don't! They did once! That's it! They did. By the way, forget EWC. Only the final was even a best of fucking 5. I don't care about winning a BO3 in that, right? Only tournament they actually got it together was Worlds. They didn't get it together in the other splits. Like, by the way, everyone keeps glazing how Faker played in spring. They fucking lost. They lost. And also, you're just thinking of the finals and the fucking regular season. Like, after that, he was fucking bad in summer. So I think people are just really scared that they don't want for a third year to say, T1 can't win Worlds. So they're all doing this thing where it's like, well, let's just wait and see with Doran. But here's my problems, Aberdeen, is I actually think the Doran for Zeus trade is so badly characterised because people are only looking at it as top laner for top laner. Like, if you actually go top laner for top laner, look, I think Zeus is better than Doran, but Doran isn't a bomb. I don't miss me with anyone saying that. He certainly played really badly at this Worlds and had some really bad on-camera, like, int games. And he has had times, clearly, where in past Gen G lives, like he was one of the let-down players at international tour. That's true. But actually, after Zeus, assuming you can't get Keen, he is the next best option in Korea. Like, he is a good player. He can be a serviceable player. He can even potentially be a serviceable player on a world champion if he was on the right squad, in my opinion. But my problem is this. What people are missing is all the things that aren't just standard top laner things that Zeus did for T1. So I'll make this case of Zeus, then I'll tell you what the prediction is. Basically, my problem with the Zeus angle, I said it on all my shows and all my videos, right? Assuming Faker, because of the shot calling and like the clutch plays, is the most important player. He's not the best player on T1, but he's the most important. You have to keep him, right? Zeus after him is the second most important, in my opinion. I even say that over Carrier, because as amazing as Carrier is, you could actually just put in like the next best support player. Still be really good playing Standard League as well. My problem with Zeus was this. One, I have never seen a top laner who actually was world class himself at carries be a fucking draft sponge as much as this guy was. He was constantly picking up the slack for other people. If people don't know, he would sometimes just blind fucking his champions even. Like, he would play whatever Faker couldn't play mid lane for the melee champ. He did so many extra things for that team that were classed as, like, you know, extracurricular things, intangibles, that I think that's what you miss when he comes out and Doran comes in. Doran doesn't bring any of those things. He brings none of those factors. So my problem with the T1 thing is, I think people are acting like, well, this is basically still just T1, but slightly worse. I think this is going to be way worse T1. So here's my hot take. They won't make any finals, so they won't be MSI. They won't be fucking winning any splits. And even if they make it, maybe they can make it Worlds as like the 4th seed or 3rd seed or something. But that's not even guaranteed for me. So I look at this squad and I just think to myself, bro, that bot lane better have the greatest fucking year they have ever had in League of Legends. Because if that bot lane's amazing, they've got a chance. If this is like the past, where split to split, you're like, no, I'm not sure about Guma now, or is this the right meta for Carrier? Then they're in fucking trouble, boys. Like, look, I get it that the other teams out there, you look at the rosters of KT, Ralston, Nongshim, on paper, these teams shouldn't be better than you. It's more of a push or a gamble to say that they would be. But I think this team, like, people are making like they're going to be like a hair behind Gen G and fucking Animal Life. I think they're going to be a clear 3rd or 4th and a bad team even. So I don't think this team does anything. I'm amazed so many people are still hyped. Like I say, I think people are just scared to be wrong 3 times in a row. But to me, it's not a 3rd time. It's a different team. I actually think it's safe to come out to play now. It's nice and warm in the water, guys, in the heater pool. Like, this was the shit. He was so fucking good in that team. I actually think he was underappreciated. So I said it on some of the insight. I think they completely entered their off-season. Because what they did is build a team that only works if at the end Zeus signs and he's the one guy you didn't get at the end. I think they actually fucked the whole off-season. Like, if they could go back in the time machine now, in my opinion, they would have done things like, since they know they wouldn't get Zeus, they would have been in the hunt to get fucking Ruler. They would have tried to sign like a different jungler or something. I think they would have done a totally different... So I think even T1 didn't want this lineup, boys. That's my take.
So,
I think,
I think you're right on multiple points. I think that the understanding of like Zeus playstyle is within T1, because I think he's able to do way more than what he has shown in T1. But what he has shown in T1 is very hard to do. because as a top laner, right, like the resources game in League of Legends is no sum, right, game. So it's like, what if you put emphasis on your bot side, your top sides are obviously like
Yes.
not in a great spot. And the problem that people don't really look at is on side lane, there are clear like do and don'ts and clear windows where you have to respect, and respecting means falling behind. And if you look at the direct matchup Zeus has been against, for instance, during Worlds and for instance during the final, falling behind against Ben is a death sentence. So this is it's really like the definition of like gracefully falling behind, like gracefully losing, because you're never gonna recover from this half wave you have to lose. You're never gonna recover from sacking a wave and going mid because you need a not push. You're never gonna recover from all these things that Zeus has been doing. And yet, if you look at both campaigns at Worlds of 2023 and 2024, and you analyze the games, Zeus is always like getting slots in where it doesn't matter. But if he makes a mistake, the whole plan of T1 collapses. The only counterplay that you have against T1 is the top lane, because you're not gonna match the mid jungle support. I don't think in history of League of Legends the mid jungle support has like that being that dynamic. Maybe like the Doran B1 in 2019, but the game was different. I do think that when Keria leaves the bot lane and starts roaming and starts like playing on vision, this team is impossible to beat. And you look at like 4, 5, 6 very clear windows where if Zeus walks on this wave and hits this minion, they kill Zeus, they get a tier 2, they come back in the game through side, maybe they get an inhib, and then it's a late game that like T1 has to win through team fights. And if people look at the games of T1, they haven't been the best team fight team the last 2 years. Like it was JDG, it was probably Genji this year, or BLG. So they had to like win through snowball and vision game. So the only way you would beat T1 was by killing Zeus. And Zeus has consistently shown ability to, yes, take the bad pick or blind pick in draft, yes, face monsters that were on their picks in the counter pick on the top side, like playing Gragas into Jax, the Vince Jax, for instance, in the final. And every single time he has to respect it. And if you look at Doran, profile for profile, he's a guy that consistently hasn't been able to do that. He was in the winning team. His 4-man was winning in Genji, for instance. His 4-man was dominating. The counterplay on him always worked. That was, we said he was bad. It was not he was bad. He doesn't know how to not get the resources for him to control his own game, and he cannot play a wave or two behind to ensure that the 4-man is winning on the other side of the map. For this reason, I think stylistically speaking, it's a massive downgrade. And I think even someone like 369, supposing he speaks, Korean, would be a better fit than Doran for this team, because you do not need anything but slowing the pace of the enemy top laner while the 4-man is winning. And I don't think Doran fits this playstyle. And for this reason, I think T1 is going to be worse this year. That said, I think that below the top 4, the competition is way, way worse in Korea. And since there is 4 slots at Worlds, and they always kind of like show up, especially Keria, I think Guma, Faker, they always show in big tournaments and big, they always kind of clutch it out. So I would say they will appear more than what you say, but I think that all the analysis before is actually true.
So I'll go across all the touchstones. So the thing is here's the thing, because I was like arguing with like Rich and Nymera about this, okay? What I can't stand is that people get to be like good or like great players for like no reason. If you actually go watch Doran, his actual best period he's ever played his entire life was 2023 summer, where he was genuinely balling out of control. Like laning, he was actually just strictly, at that time, he was better than Zeus. Like, he was actually just a better player than Zeus. Now, there's a bunch of factors for why that was. Like, Faker wasn't in the team, T1 was struggling. I can get all that, but at that time, Doran was balling out of control. He was a very, very, very good player. Here's the problem with all that, though. Go actually look at how many games he plays in his team that he is the reason that they are winning the game, as in like he is proactive with his lead, the lead that he has garnered, he is proactively like pushing it and moving it around the map to create advantages. He just isn't that sort of player, and so I don't think you should get credit for being that sort of player, because like people like Canyon and Chove are those players, and that's why they're so much different from everyone else, and they get all the crazy credit because they are just so proactive and they are just so good at using and utilising their leads. And Doran just isn't, but that. I'll go the next one, Thorin. Just as a little like touchstone to where we won last off. I think if T1 wins any tournament this year, they should count it as a success. If they win one tournament this year, like they should be like very, very happy with the year. Put it that way. Like I think it's a very, very difficult year, and if they manage to take any of these tournaments, they should count their lucky stars that like they managed to win one. Because I think a lot of people could walk away from this year winning basically nothing, even though you were a very, very good team for the year. And I also agree massively with here that even though Doran, he's probably like the second or third best top laner in the region, third or more comfortably, right? The style swap's absolutely insane. Because here's the thing. You have broken down the 5-man unit, right, of that team. And that team was so much about how all 5 players understood in mid-game, late-game situations, how we're going to use vision, dark spots on the map to create traps around it. You even seen it in the finals where Zeus knows on Ornn how to hide at the wolf camp, and he uses it to flank Elk and kill him on Ornn in mid lane, right? Doran doesn't do that. That's never been Doran's game. Like that's not something that's easily teachable. So I'm not even trying to like hate on him like so much, but I think he's going to end up kind of being like struggling. And here's the really sick part: I actually think he's going to be the scapegoat and vector for definitely. Like all the things that go wrong in this team. Even though it might not actually be his fault, he is going to get absolutely like dogged on by the fans. I hope they don't do it, and I hope they're more accepting. But the history doesn't really show for that. So.
Because, by the way, even the way it's phrased, I've seen so many people make that comment, right, where they go, hey, I'll tell you what, though, if Faker could win with Doran, he really is the GOAT. It's like, the reason even that phrasing is offensive to me is you're almost implying, like, he's the reason Zeus became the world champion the last 2 years. Like, it's the other way around, you fuck. Listen, I'll give Faker this. In fact, this is the sad thing. Because he was awesome in Game 4 and Game 5, not even the whole game, but just in the key moments, people have, like, given him the whole world. Just like he was the best player at Worlds. And, like, I don't get it, because to me, Zeus did so much work those 2 Worlds. He was unbelievable. Like, if you want to say Bin was better this last one, I'll give you that. But I'll tell you what, Zeus was like that far behind. And he was also clearly, by the way, as you could see in the tournament, the only player who could stand against Bin. I think if any other player plays the final against Bin, Bin is just a world champion right now, boys. Like, it's just the case. Because I'm with you, Zabati. Yeah, people like Faker and Kerry made some of the key plays, but like what allowed you to even still be in the game is like Zeus didn't just get his head smashed in 5 games in a row. If he just got ran over like that with Jax every game, you wouldn't even be able to win these team fights. It would be even more out of control. Yeah.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.